After spending millennia protecting humanity, a group of powerful beings known as the Eternals must unite once again to defeat an alien threat that has returned from the past. Today we'll recap the story of the movie, Eternals, from 2021. 5,000 years before Christ, a spaceship lands on Earth, commanded by beings from another dimension called the Eternals. Just then, a father and his son are fishing on a beach, until a gigantic monster appears and attacks them. The creature, known as the Deviant, devours the man and prepares to do the same to the boy. Fortunately, he is stopped by one of the Eternals, Akaris, who flies towards him and shoots cosmic rays from his eyes. Soon after, two more Deviants appear to attack the boy and his village, but in front of them, other Eternal warriors appear to stop them. The speedster Makari uses her super speed to move all the inhabitants to safety. At the same time, her colleague Kingo shoots energy balls from his hands and pushes the monster over a cliff. Nearby, another Deviant runs towards the inhabitants, but is stopped by Gilgamesh, who creates cosmic energy gloves and strikes the monster. He also receives help from Thena, an Eternal capable of using this same energy to create melee weapons. She strikes the Deviant with her swords and then turns them into a shield and a spear. With Gilgamesh's help, she scales the monster and pierces its head, ending the fight on land. Once in the air, the fight continues and Akaris fires his lightning bolts at the monster. Finally, the Deviant begins to weaken and the Eternal seizes the chance and gives him a powerful punch, which sends him crashing into the open sea. With the confrontation over, a ship materializes in the air in front of the village people. From there, the last Eternals of the group appear: Phastos, Druig, Sprite, the leader Ajak and Circe. They then make their first contact with humanity and swear to protect the planet from the threat of the Deviants. Millennia later, in the present day, the Eternals have split up and live among humans. Among them is Circe, who lives as a civilian in London, together with Sprite. During the evening, the two go to a bar to celebrate the birthday of Dane, Circe's boyfriend. However, as they are leaving, a Deviant emerges from the water to attack them. Circe uses her power to materialize objects and creates quicksand to sink the monster, then solidifies it to leave it trapped. Afterwards, the trio try to escape, but the Deviant manages to break free and runs towards them. Circe lures the monster into the street, while Sprite uses her power to manipulate reality and creates several copies of herself. This leaves the Deviant confused, but he soon discovers the hoax and uses his tentacles to knock the girl down. The monster approaches her to deliver the final blow until he is suddenly thrown into a building. Immediately afterwards, the monster is thrown out with a cosmic ray, which was fired by Akaris. Despite the powerful blow, the Deviant attacks him once more and the two crash into a bus. The collision causes the vehicle to flip over, but Circe turns it into leaves and leaves everyone safe. Even so, the monster doesn't give up and charges at Akaris, who counters by shooting lightning from his eyes. However, something unexpected happens and the Deviant manages to regenerate from its wounds. Despite his surprise, Akaris attacks him again and throws the monster into the water, which takes the opportunity to flee. Minutes later, the police arrive at the scene of the confrontation, but Sprite uses her power and makes everyone invisible so that they can escape. After all the confusion, Dane and Circe reunite and she explains the truth about the Eternals. She goes on to say that they can't interfere in human history and that's why they couldn't take part in the battle against Thanos. The couple say goodbye and Circe meets Akaris and Sprite in their apartment. They are worried about the return of the Deviants and decide to get together with the others to fight them. This meeting reminds them of the year 575 BC, when they lived in ancient Babylon. The Eternals fought together to protect the city from 4 Deviants who tried to destroy its surroundings. One of the monsters, with spider-like tentacles, tries to attack a girl, until Akaris appears to protect her. Makari then pushes the Deviant into a house and collapses it on top of the monster. At the gates of Babylon, Gilgamesh orders everyone to enter and stands in front of them so that the monsters can't get through. The creature, which resembles a ferocious bull, charges at the Eternal and throws him away. Luckily, Makari manages to save him in time and the other heroes, Thena, Akaris and Kingo, show up to help him. The fight is arduous, but with their powers combined, the quintet manages to take down the monster. After the battle, the leader of the Eternals, Ajak, meets with her master, a celestial called Arishem. He congratulates her on her work, but tells her that they must not become attached to human beings or interfere in their history. While remaining faithful to their master's orders, the Eternals have become increasingly close to human beings. They learned their language, their customs and their ability to form bonds. Thanks to this, Akaris and Circe became increasingly close and later married. However, things changed over the millennia and they have been separated ever since. Back in the present, Akaris, Circe and Sprite go to a house in the countryside in search of Ajax. When they get there, the place looks uninhabited, until in the middle of the field, the three find the body of their leader, eliminated. Suddenly, a small sphere of energy leaves Ajax's body and enters Circe, who for a moment is able to speak to Arishem. The Celestial tells her that the hour is approaching, but before she can find out more, Circe returns to Earth. After this mysterious event, the three of them go home and reminisce about their times with Ajax, including the day they split up. While living in the Aztec Empire, a battle between humans made the Eternals question their mission. Druig wants to use his ability to control the minds of humans and end the conflict, but Ajax won't allow it. To make matters worse, Thena is possessed by a strange energy and her mind loses control. She attacks her own friends and narrowly misses piercing Circe's body with her spear, but Makari carries her away at high speed. Unfortunately, while she was running, Thena stabbed her, causing them both to be thrown to the ground. The crazed warrior prepares to finish Makari off, until Ajax appears and grabs her spear with her hand. The leader of the Eternals then uses her power to bring her back to normal, but Thena loses control again and stabs her. Ajax then uses her healing power to close the wound. At that moment, Gilgamesh appears and tries to bring Thena back to her senses, while blocking her attacks with his arms. With no alternative, he strikes her with his strength and leaves her unconscious. Hours later, the group takes Thena to a room and she finally returns to normal. Ajax tells her that she has an incurable disease in her mind and that only by erasing her memory will she be cured. Druig is disgusted by the idea, as Thena will no longer be herself. He also doesn't support the fact that they don't interfere in human life, so he decides to leave the group. After that day, they all went their separate ways, but faced with the threat of the Deviants, they must unite once again. Back in the present day, Circe, Akaris and Sprite go to Bangkok in search of Kingo. He has become a famous movie actor and welcomes his friends with joy, but when he finds out that his leader has perished, he decides to go with the group. Hours later, they arrive in Australia in search of Gilgamesh and Thena. However, when they get there, the warrior is still very affected by her mental condition and tries to attack the group. Fortunately, with the help of Gilgamesh and Sprite, she comes to her senses. Afterwards, everyone gathers for a meal, but Circe is upset by everything that has happened and leaves. Outside, she manages to get in touch with the Celestial and talks about what happened to Ajax and the return of the Deviants. Arishem reveals that all these events are the result of the Eternals' original plan. According to the Celestial, Circe and all the others were created and sent to various planets to prevent the Deviants from eliminating intelligent life. In this way, life proliferates and allows the creation of a new Celestial. However, in order for this entity to be born, both living beings and the planet are destroyed. After that, the Celestials that are born create new galaxies and the cycle continues. As for the Eternals, after fulfilling their purpose, their memories are taken away and they are sent to other planets. Upon discovering this, Circe returns upset and tells everyone that humanity and the planet are under threat. Even though they are reluctant, the group decides to look for the last Eternals, Makari, Phastos and Druig, and then decide what to do. Hours later, they arrive in the Amazon rainforest and there they find a peaceful community controlled by Druig. When he discovers the truth, the Eternal is neither satisfied nor willing to help his friends. Later, while they think about what to do, Circe and Akaris talk about their mission, but also about what caused the two of them to separate. Just as Akaris was about to tell the truth, a deviant appears and captures him. Two more monsters appear and are about to attack Circe, but Kingo arrives on the scene and fires his energy projectiles at them. Circe seizes the chance and takes the villagers to the shelters. Meanwhile, Akaris battles one of them in midair, but the creatures are tougher than ever. The deviant manages to knock the Eternal to the ground, but Gilgamesh appears to help him. He uses his punches strengthened with cosmic energy, but the creature rises with each blow. To make matters worse, Thena sees her partner fighting, which causes her illness to manifest and she fights Akaris. Nearby, Druig controls a group of people and makes them fire their weapons at the deviants. Seeing this, Circe turns a tree into a large metal trunk and pushes it against the monster, which gets stuck. In another part of the camp, Kingo fires his energy projectiles, but the deviant continues to advance. He then begins to concentrate a high energy charge in his fingers and Sprite appears to help him. While she distracts the monster, Kingo manages to gather enough energy. He then leaps towards the monster and fires a powerful ball of energy that destroys its head. Minutes later, Akaris chases a flying deviant in the air and thanks to his power, manages to sever one of the creature's wings and knock it to the ground. Afterwards, the Eternal returns to the camp and grabs another of the monsters by the mouth before it can attack Druig. Akaris shoots the beam from his eyes into the monster and finishes it off. However, another deviant appears and attacks the sprite and Kingo. Akaris tries to attack him, but the monster manages to dodge and pushes the hero away. Immediately afterwards, the monster climbs on top of Akaris and manages to pin him down. At that moment, Circe materializes a spear and pierces the monster, which jumps with it towards a fountain. Inside, the deviant tries to eliminate her, but suddenly Circe puts her hands on his face and an explosion occurs. After that, she comes out of the water and realizes that she has turned the monster into a big tree. Moments later, Gilgamesh continues to fight a deviant, but the monster notices that Thena is hiding near the trees. He sets out to attack her and the Eternal runs to protect her. Unfortunately, the monster grabs him, uses its tentacles to pierce him and then begins to suck out his vital energy. After that, it throws Gilgamesh to the ground and he begins to undergo a strange transformation, acquiring a more human form. Thanks to Gilgamesh's absorbed memories, the deviant manages to communicate with the Eternals and tells them that they too were created by the Celestials. Just then, Akaris appears and drives him away with his power, but soon realizes that Gilgamesh is seriously injured. Afterwards, the other Eternals gathered there, but Gilgamesh couldn't resist his injuries. His friends say goodbye for the last time with a funeral in his honor, especially Thena. Afterwards, Circe talks to Druig about her plan to prevent the Celestial from being born on Earth. He doesn't believe it's possible, but she says they should look for Phastos to help them. The next day, she and Akaris arrive in Chicago and find him there with his family. They tell him everything that has happened and, although reluctant, Phastos agrees to help them. The next day, the group goes to Iraq in search of their old ship. They find it and inside is Makari, who has been living there for all these years. After their reunion, Phastos activates his old laboratory and creates a plan to prevent the destruction of the Earth. His idea is to distribute the energy of each Eternal to Druig through bracelets. That way, he can use his mind control energy to prevent the Celestial from waking up. However, not everyone agrees with the plan, including Kingo and Sprite, who demand a decision from Akaris. However, he doesn't want to interfere with Circe's leadership and leaves. While meditating alone, Akaris remembers his last contact with Ajax, 6 days earlier. It is revealed in his memory that not only did he already know about the Celestial's birth, but also about Ajax's plans to prevent it in order to save humanity. Akaris says he will help her with this plan, but first he needs to show her something. The two go to Alaska and there they find several deviants gathered on an ice cliff. Soon after, Akaris reveals his true intentions and tells her that he won't let her interfere with the Celestial's birth. She tries to convince him of his mistake, but Akaris throws her into the midst of the deviants. Ajax tries to defend herself, but the leader of the monsters, the same one who would eliminate Gilgamesh, absorbs her essence and eliminates her. Afterwards, Akaris took Ajax's body back to her old home and left her there, so that everyone would think that the deviants had eliminated her. However, unbeknownst to him, the monster that absorbed his leader acquired his ability to regenerate and passed it on to the others. After this memory, Akaris meets Circe and the two talk, but she has another vision of Ereshkigal. This time, it is revealed that the birth of the Celestial is about to take place. On hearing this, Phastos sends Makari to find out where it all begins. She runs around the world and finds the Celestial emerging from a volcano. At that moment, Akaris puts on his suit and goes into the laboratory room. There, he destroys the model that Phastos created to stop the Celestial and reveals the whole truth about Ajax's perishment. This makes everyone furious, but Akaris warns them that they can't beat him in a fight. To everyone's surprise, the sprite says she'll follow him and creates an illusion for the two of them to escape. After that, it's Kingo's turn to leave, as he knows he can't fight Akaris. The other heroes then think of another way to stop the Celestial and Phastos believes that the only one capable of doing so is Circe. He says that his plan is to remove Ajax's sphere, which is inside Circe, and use it to connect the Eternals and thus gather their energies. With the plan in place, the group steers their ship towards the volcano. When they get there, Sprite and Akaris are waiting for them. The powerful Eternal sees his former colleague's ship and pierces the hull to get inside. There, he meets Thena, who immediately prepares to fight. She summons one of her spears and tries to pierce him, but Akaris holds on with his hands. She transforms the weapon into two swords to attack him and the villain strikes back with his lightning, but she creates a shield and manages to defend herself. Meanwhile, Makari, Circe and Druig are outside, near the volcano. The three of them wear the bracelets created by Phastos and start transferring energy to Druig. At the same time, Akaris continues to attack Thena with his lightning and powerful punches, until he manages to break through her defense and pin her to the wall. However, lights begin to emerge from Thena's body, indicating that the power transfer ritual has begun. Akaris then flies out of the ship and finds the trio, reunited on the ground. There, Druig begins to use his power of mind control to put the Celestial to sleep. Seeing this, Akaris fires the beam from his eyes at Druig and then throws him away. Afterwards, he uses his power to tear the ship in two, and it crashes in the middle of the beach. Fortunately, Makari manages to rescue Phastos and Thena before it's too late. Just then, Akaris appears in front of them and Makari, enraged by what he has done to Druig, runs at top speed towards him. The Eternal grabs him and uses her power to throw him against the wall and deliver powerful blows to the villain. Seconds later, the Celestial's awakening continues and this causes the volcano to erupt. As a result, flaming rocks start being thrown towards the beach. Thena, Phastos and Circe use their powers to protect themselves from the rocks, but they fear that without Druig, there is no hope of stopping the Celestial. Meanwhile, Makari drags Akari's body up the mountain walls, but is hit by one of the rocks coming from the volcano. Thanks to this, the villain recovers from the attack and fires his lightning bolts at her. However, Makari dodges the blows with her speed and punches him dozens of times until she slams him into the wall. Despite her best efforts, Makari is struck by Akaris, who manages to knock her to the ground. Fortunately, Phastos and Thena show up to help, while Circe goes to the Celestial to prevent his birth herself. Meanwhile, Phastos uses his cosmic energy discs to attack Akaris, while Thena strikes him with kicks and her weapons, followed by Makari with her quick blows. However, even the combined effort of the three is not enough to stop Akaris, who manages to get the upper hand thanks to his stamina. The situation only gets worse when the deviant who absorbed Ajak and Gilgamesh's powers suddenly appears on the battlefield. Seeing the monster, Makari rushes around it and creates a sand tornado. However, the monster causes the ground to shake, causing the sprinter to lose her balance and be thrown away. The deviant then leaps towards her and uses its tentacles to absorb Makari's essence. Luckily, Phastos uses his bracelets and shoots lightning bolts that push the monster into a cave. Thena then takes the opportunity to take revenge for Gilgamesh's perishment and goes after the creature. Meanwhile, Akaris tries to fly to stop Circe from destroying the Celestial, but Phastos creates a net that leaves him trapped. Meanwhile, in the cave, Thena searches for the deviant, who tries to attack her from behind, but she manages to counterattack with her blades and a fierce fight breaks out. Minutes later, Circe approaches the volcano, until Ajak appears next to her. Circe soon realizes that it's an illusion of the sprite, but she didn't expect the girl to be after her and then attack her with her dagger. Sprite says she wants Celestial to be born, so she can be reborn in another body, no longer that of a child. She creates several illusions of the volcano to confuse Circe, but behind her, Druig appears and hits her with a rock. Afterwards, Druig says that he doesn't have the strength to make the Celestial fall asleep and that now it's up to Circe to destroy it once and for all. Meanwhile, Thena continues her fight against the deviant, and in a moment of carelessness on the part of the monster, she leaps towards him and pierces him with her spear. Even so, the deviant resists and throws her away with a blow. He then uses Gilgamesh's absorbed essence and tries to impersonate him, which causes Thena to be affected by her illness again. The monster takes this opportunity to trap her with its tentacles. It then begins to absorb her essence, but before it can be eliminated, Thena creates a dagger from her hand, cuts off the tentacles and finally shatters the monster with her swords. The fight, however, is not over yet. The Celestial's birth is getting closer and closer, and his hand and head are beginning to emerge from the sea. At that moment, Circe, who was on top of him, uses her power to turn the Celestial into a rock. At that moment, Akaris manages to free himself from his prison and flies towards Circe. When he gets there, he prepares to eliminate her, but past memories of their life together invade his mind. The Eternal is unable to attack his beloved, and in front of him, Circe begins to absorb the energy of the other Eternals. All this energy is transmitted to their leader, who then unloads it completely into the Celestial, and he is then destroyed. Thanks to this, planet Earth and humanity are safe. However, Akaris weeps with remorse in front of Circe and then flies away from Earth towards the sun, ending his existence. Minutes later, the surviving Eternals gather near the volcano. Makari and Phastos believe that, through the Celestial's energy, they have been able to unite their energies with Circe and thus eliminate him. Soon afterwards, Sprite also appears and regrets everything she has done. Circe, however, gives her the chance to transform into a human with the power of the Celestial that remains in her body. This being her greatest wish, Gwende agrees and the two hold hands in an act of reconciliation. Later, the group meets up at Ajak's old house. Phastos stays with his family, while Druig, Makari and Thena decide to set off in their rebuilt ship in search of other Eternals. Far away, in London, Circe and Kingo say goodbye to Sprite, who is going to start her normal life. Hours later, Dane and Cersei meet again and the two talk about what happened. With everything cleared up, Dane also tells her that he has a secret to tell her. However, a strange storm forms in the air and the celestial Arishem appears from it. The entity pulls Cersei, Kingo and Phastos towards it and warns them that they will regret having eliminated a celestial for the sake of humans. It leaves, but first it takes them with it through a black hole. Light years ahead, the Eternal ship travels through space and Thena, Druig and Makari find out what happened to their friends. They decide to return to Earth, but suddenly a portal appears in the ship's corridor, from which a troll called Pip emerges. Soon after, another individual called Eros walks through the portal and reveals that he is an Eternal. He also says that he will help them find their friends, as he knows where Arishem has taken them. Meanwhile, Dane, who was about to reveal his family's secret to Cersei, is in a room in front of a box. When he opens it, he finds the ebony sword, a family heirloom capable of transforming its bearer into the legendary Black Knight. Dane hesitates to take it, but wants to use this power to look for Cersei. Then, behind him, an unknown voice asks if he's really ready to get this power again. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.